Imagine this. A single moment, not in time but before time. A silence so profound that even the idea of sound did not yet exist. No stars, no galaxies, no atoms. Only potential, suspended, waiting, listening for the first note of creation. And then, it happened. A tremor, softer than a whisper, but powerful enough to awaken the void itself. From nothing, everything, space, time, energy, and matter, unfolded in an instant. This is what we call the Big Bang. But perhaps the most haunting question of all is not how it happened, but what was there before it. Scientists call it a singularity, a point smaller than imagination, denser than all thought combined. Philosophers call it the breath of the infinite. Mystics call it the sound of creation, the the vibration that gives birth to all that is. But even these words fail to capture the mystery. Because before the universe began, there was no before. There was no space for where, no time for when, no energy for how. Only a boundless potential. Waiting. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine it. The instant before existence. No direction, no light, no darkness. A field of pure possibility. Silent yet alive. Motionless yet overflowing with everything that could ever be. If creation is a story, then that was the page before the first word, blank, yet pregnant with meaning. Cosmologists tell us that everything we see, from the smallest particle to the largest galaxy, was once compressed into a point smaller than a grain of sand. But this sand was not sitting in space, it was space. It didn't explode into the universe, it became the universe. And that changes everything. Because if the universe didn't expand into something, but rather expanded itself into being, then the real question is not what came before, but what gave rise to the very idea of beginning. For centuries, humanity has wrestled with this paradox. In ancient India, the Rig Veda asked, whence was it born? Whence came creation? The gods themselves are later than this world's making. In ancient Greece, philosophers like Anaximander spoke of the apeiron, the infinite, a boundless, eternal realm from which all things emerge and return. Even modern physics whispers the same mystery, that beyond the singularity lies something we cannot yet name. Perhaps not a thing at all, but a condition beyond comprehension. Imagine a cosmic breath, an inhale of infinite stillness, followed by an exhale that becomes galaxies, stars, and life. Could the universe itself be breathing, expanding and contracting across ages beyond measure? If so, then the Big Bang was not the beginning, but merely a heartbeat in an eternal rhythm. And if that's true, if creation was not a one-time event but an ongoing pulse of being, then what does that say about us? About our connection to that first spark of existence? Every atom in your body, every photon that touches your skin, once existed in that moment, that point before time began. We are, quite literally, the echo of the first breath. But here's the question that shatters the silence of creation itself. If the Big Bang was not the beginning of everything, then what breathed the first breath of the universe? In the beginning, there was no beginning. No light, no darkness, not even the notion of separation. And yet, from that impossibly small, dense state, from that singularity, the universe awakened. Not with a sound that anyone could hear, but with a transformation so complete that it defined reality itself. 13.8 billion years ago, the universe was born, not as a flash in empty space, but as space itself bursting into being. It didn't explode into something. It expanded from everything, everywhere, all at once. The first instant, a fraction of a second smaller than imagination, is what scientists call Planck time, the earliest measurable moment after the Big Bang. At that scale, the laws of physics as we know them dissolve. Quantum fields ripple without form. Energy and space are one, indistinguishable. Temperature, 10 million billion degrees. A realm where even the concept of hot loses meaning, because there is nothing else to compare it to. From that radiant sea of pure energy, the first dance began, a cosmic choreography between matter and light. Energy condensed into particles, and those particles collided, fused, vanished, and reappeared in endless cycles. Protons and neutrons formed, clinging together like the first whispers of structure. And in less than a heartbeat, the universe, once smaller than an atom, had already expanded to a size larger than our solar system. This incredible acceleration, called cosmic inflation, is one of the greatest mysteries in all of science. Within a blink, the universe stretched faster than the speed of light, not breaking any rule, but creating the very fabric that light would later travel through. Like an artist stretching a blank canvas before the first stroke, inflation prepared the stage for everything that would follow. Then, as expansion slowed and space cooled, the first forces separated: gravity, electromagnetism, the strong and weak nuclear forces. They were born from unity, dividing like colors from a single beam of white light. Each law, each constant, each symmetry, set with almost impossible precision. Had gravity been slightly weaker, galaxies would never have formed. Had it been stronger, the universe would have collapsed back into itself. Everything was balanced to an extraordinary degree, as if tuned by a hidden intelligence, or by a law we still do not understand. Roughly 3 minutes after the beginning, the first atomic nuclei formed. Hydrogen, helium, and traces of lithium, the raw ingredients of stars. And then, silence. For hundreds of thousands of years, the universe glowed with blinding light, filled with radiation so dense that atoms could not yet exist. It was a cosmic fog, a sea of photons bouncing endlessly off free electrons. A universe awake, but blind to itself. And then, 380,000 years after the Big Bang, everything changed. The temperature dropped enough for the first atoms to form. Electrons finally joined with nuclei. Light broke free, the universe became transparent. That light still travels today, faint but eternal, stretched across the cosmos as the cosmic microwave background, the first visible memory of creation. When we look at that ancient glow, we are not just observing the aftermath of an explosion. We are looking at the moment the universe first saw itself. A snapshot of its infancy, imprinted across the heavens. Every galaxy, every star, every life form began as ripples in that primordial sea. Tiny fluctuations in density, 1 part in 100,000, eventually grew into the grand structures we see today. From that delicate imbalance, everything was born. The same laws that guide a falling apple, the same gravity that holds you to Earth, once shaped the first galaxies. And so, the Big Bang was not chaos. It was balance, harmony, the awakening of order from apparent nothingness. But this birth story leads us into a deeper question, one that lingers like an echo in the cosmic background. If the laws that govern the universe came into being at that first instant, then where did those laws come from? What mind, what principle, or what mystery wrote the first equation of existence? There is a sound that fills the universe, a whisper older than the stars. It does not move through air or wind, but through the fabric of space itself. It began as the universe's first sigh, the soft release of light escaping darkness for the very first time. We call it the cosmic microwave background, the oldest light in existence, still drifting silently through every corner of the cosmos. But this light is not the kind that warms your skin or glitters from a distant sun. It is faint, ancient, stretched thin by the expansion of space. Its glow cooled to a near absolute chill. And yet it is everywhere. Right now it passes through you. Through the walls, the oceans, the mountains. Every second, we are bathed in the memory of creation. Imagine it. A universe once dense and luminous, glowing with the intensity of 1,000 suns in every direction. There were no stars, no planets, only radiant plasma swirling through endless space. But as that space expanded, the light began to stretch. Wavelengths lengthened, energy faded, and the universe's brightness dimmed, until that once blinding radiance became the soft microwave hum we detect today. It was in the early 1960s that this cosmic echo was first discovered, not by mystics or philosophers, but by 2 radio engineers, Arno Penzias and Robert Wilson. They were testing an antenna for satellite communication when they found a mysterious background noise, a persistent hiss that came from no specific direction. At first, they suspected dust, interference, even pigeon droppings on the equipment. But no matter what they cleaned or adjusted, the signal remained. A faint, unending whisper from the heavens. That hum turned out to be the afterglow of the Big Bang, the echo of the universe's first light. What Penzias and Wilson had stumbled upon was the oldest photograph in existence. Not of galaxies or planets, but of the universe itself, just 380,000 years after its birth. A time when the cosmos was only a baby, glowing softly, evenly, with the purity of its first light. Today, satellites like COBE, WMAP, and Planck have mapped this glow in exquisite detail. And what they reveal is astonishing. This ancient light is not perfectly smooth. It carries faint ripples, tiny variations in temperature, differences as small as 1 part in 100,000. Yet those ripples are the seeds of everything. Where the light was slightly denser, gravity slowly gathered matter. Those ripples grew into stars, galaxies, and clusters. From the smallest tremor in that first light came the architecture of all creation, a cosmic fingerprint of destiny. But beyond its beauty lies its meaning. The cosmic background is not merely radiation. It's the voice of the beginning, still speaking. It tells us that the universe is not static, but evolving. That time, space, and energy are woven together in a single unfolding story. It tells us that the Big Bang was not an explosion in space. It was an explosion of space, and that expansion continues even now, with galaxies rushing away like sparks from an eternal flame. If you could tune your television between channels in the old analog days, a small part of that static, about 1%, was from this very glow. Even in the silence of your living room, you were listening to the universe's first words. Every moment of your life, you live inside that ancient light. You breathe it. You are built from it. The carbon in your body, the oxygen in your lungs, the calcium in your bones, all born from the stars that formed out of those first ripples in that light. In a sense, the universe remembers. Every particle, every wave of radiation, carries a trace of that initial brilliance. To study the cosmic background is to read the autobiography of existence itself, written not in ink but in light. And so, as we gaze deeper into the cosmic microwave background, we're not just looking backward in time, we're peering into the moment when reality first learned to shine. It's the ultimate paradox. A light that has been traveling for almost 14 billion years, yet never truly left its source, because its source is everywhere. So the next time you see the night sky, the stars scattered like jewels across the void, remember, behind their glow is a softer light, far older, endlessly patient. The first light, the eternal echo, the heartbeat of everything that is. But even as this ancient light tells us about the dawn of time, it leaves us with a deeper mystery still unanswered. If the universe carries within it the memory of its birth, what invisible memory lies beyond it, before the first light ever shone? Every great creation needs structure. A melody follows rhythm, a poem follows meter, and a universe, even one born from nothing, follows laws. But where did those laws come from? Who or what decided that gravity would pull, that light would travel at a fixed speed, that time would flow only forward? Why these rules and not others? Moments after the Big Bang, when the universe was a storm of raw energy and newborn particles, order began to emerge, quiet, invisible, inevitable. The first atoms had not yet formed, but something more profound had already appeared. Patterns. The laws of physics, gravity, electromagnetism, and the nuclear forces began to crystallize from chaos. Before stars, before galaxies, before even light itself, the universe wrote its own code. It's as if the cosmos had a blueprint waiting to unfold, like music hidden in silence, ready to be played. Everywhere we look, in the arc of a planet, in the vibration of a string, in the spiral of a galaxy, we see these laws at work, precise and unwavering. The same equations that govern the fusion of hydrogen in the heart of a star also describe the motion of a leaf falling from a tree. There is no difference in their essence, only in their scale. But here's the enigma. These laws didn't exist before the universe. They were born with it. Before time began, there was no before for them to occupy. So how did something as abstract as mathematics, as pure as geometry, rise from absolute nothingness? Some scientists suggest that these laws are not creations but consequences, inevitable results of existence itself. that if there were ever to be something rather than nothing, then that something must obey rules. Others believe the laws are written into the very structure of reality, timeless and eternal, like the axioms of a deeper cosmic truth. And yet, a third possibility whispers from the edge of philosophy, that the universe generates its own rules as it evolves, that law and matter co-create, learning each other as they go. Imagine a universe where the laws were slightly different. If the charge of an electron were even a fraction stronger, atoms would never hold together. If gravity were weaker by the smallest degree, stars would never ignite. If the expansion of space were faster, galaxies would never form. Everything we know, every color, every sound, every heartbeat, depends on a delicate balance set in that first instant. Too perfect to be random, yet too vast to be designed in any human sense. Some physicists compare it to the tuning of an instrument. The universe is like a violin string, tensioned just enough to vibrate in harmony. If tuned differently, it might still exist, but it would play no melody. And we, its listeners, would never have been here to hear it. Mathematician Eugene Wigner once called this mystery the unreasonable effectiveness of mathematics. Why should numbers, created in the human mind, so perfectly describe the motions of galaxies and the trembling of atoms? Why does the universe speak the language of logic and symmetry when chaos could have ruled instead? Perhaps the answer lies not in numbers, but in the idea of emergence. Just as patterns form in snowflakes or ripples form in water, the laws of physics may have emerged naturally from deeper simplicity, a pre-physical realm beyond time, where the very concepts of law and matter are one. Some call it the quantum vacuum, others the unified field, others still the breath of the infinite. Whatever it is, that source gave rise to a cosmos where energy becomes matter, matter becomes light, and light curves into gravity. Every star that burns, every planet that spins, every atom that vibrates does so because these laws allow it. They are the unseen scaffolding of existence, the poetry of the cosmos, written not in words but in relationships. And yet, there's a haunting thought that lingers. If the universe is ruled by unchanging laws, what set them in motion? If the laws themselves came into being, what governed their birth? Could there exist a deeper order beyond even mathematics, a meta-law that birthed all others? Or are the laws of physics not the foundation of the universe, but merely its first shadow? What is time? A clock ticking on the wall? The slow movement of planets around stars? Or is it something deeper, a current that carries all things forward, from birth to memory, from creation to dissolution? We live inside time as fish live in water, surrounded by it, moved by it, but rarely able to see it. And yet, time itself is one of the youngest children of the cosmos. Before the Big Bang, it did not flow. It did not exist. When cosmologists describe the origin of the universe, they speak of a singularity, an infinitely dense point where the equations of physics break down. At that instant, space and time were one, compressed, silent, motionless. Then, as the universe expanded, time itself unfurled like a ribbon. Each second that has ever existed was born from that expansion, stretching outward with every heartbeat of the cosmos. To ask what happened before the Big Bang is to ask, what is north of the North Pole? The question dissolves within itself because before is a concept that time allows, and time had not yet begun. And yet, we still feel the question, don't we? Something deep within us resists the idea of nothingness. We imagine a moment of waiting, a cosmic pause before creation began. But physics tells us, there was no waiting, no silence before sound, no pause before motion. Time started when the universe did. In that instant, the future rushed outward, pulling matter and light with it. Space began to expand, carrying with it the possibility of moments, sequences, change, evolution. The first photons moved freely, and with them the first rhythm was born. The universe began to count. From that first pulse came everything, the cooling of plasma, the birth of atoms, the ignition of stars. Time became the stage upon which the universe could tell its story. But what is time really? Is it a flowing river carrying us forward, or a vast landscape that already exists, through which consciousness merely travels? Einstein's theory of relativity shattered the old idea of time as universal. He showed that time bends and stretches, slower near strong gravity, faster in empty space. A second on Earth is not a second near a black hole. There is no absolute now across the cosmos. Each observer experiences time differently. The universe, it seems, does not tick in unison. In the fabric of space-time, every event, past, present, and future, exists together, like pages of a book already written. From this perspective, time does not flow. It is. The Big Bang is not just a moment long gone. It still exists, eternally inscribed on the first page of the cosmic story. We, reading near the middle of the book, simply perceive it as the past. But if the past and future both exist, what does that say about free will? Are we passengers along a timeline already drawn? Or are we co-authors, shaping the next page with every choice? Perhaps time is not a river or a map, but a dialogue between matter and mind, energy and awareness. Quantum physics deepens the mystery even further. In the microscopic world, particles do not experience time as we do. An electron can exist in many states at once, past, present, and future overlapping in a haze of probability. Only when observed does it choose a moment to exist. Could it be that consciousness itself gives time its direction? That the act of observing the universe helps define what now means? And if that's true, then perhaps time did not begin for the universe, it began with awareness. Maybe the two are inseparable, a cosmic heartbeat of observation and becoming. So, as we move through our days, feeling time pass like sand between our fingers, we might remember, we are not moving through time, time is unfolding through us. Every second you live is the universe expanding in human form. And yet, one question lingers at the edge of thought. A question so subtle, even time cannot erase it. If time began at the Big Bang, what existed in the timeless silence before the first moment? What if the Big Bang was not the beginning, but merely a transition? A door between one universe and another? A heartbeat in an endless rhythm of creation and renewal? For over a century, we've imagined the Big Bang as the ultimate genesis, the first breath of everything. But the deeper scientists and philosophers peer into the equations, the more they suspect. The universe might not have been born once, but again and again. Let's step beyond the edge of time, beyond that first light, into the realm of what might have been before. The cyclical universe. In some of the most daring theories of modern cosmology, the universe is not a single explosion, but a pulse, a breathing cosmos. Imagine reality itself expanding, slowing, and then, instead of fading into nothing, folding back in on itself. Galaxies drawn closer, stars returning to heat, space shrinking until everything once again becomes a point of infinite potential. Then, with unimaginable pressure, the cycle begins anew. Another bang, another dawn, another story. This is the oscillating universe, sometimes called the Big Bounce. It suggests that what we call the beginning may simply be the latest in an infinite series of expansions and contractions. Each universe could inherit traces, tiny quantum memories, from the one before, like ripples crossing the surface of an eternal sea. If so, then time itself is circular. There was never truly a first moment, only an eternal rhythm of beginnings without end. Quantum birth from the vacuum. But others see the story differently. To them, the universe did not arise from a previous cosmos, but from the quantum fabric of reality itself, from what appears to be nothing. Yet this nothing is not empty. In quantum physics, even the vacuum teems with energy, virtual particles flashing into existence and vanishing again in trillionths of a second. Imagine the void not as silence, but as a restless sea of potential. In one of these quantum fluctuations, a spark might have reached the critical threshold, inflating, expanding, giving rise to an entire universe. Our universe. This theory suggests that universes might bloom from the quantum field endlessly, each born from the fluctuations of the last. In this view, the Big Bang wasn't an exception. It was inevitable. Creation, perhaps, is the natural state of reality itself. The eternal inflation model. Then comes another idea, stranger still. What if the Big Bang wasn't the birth of the universe, but merely one bubble in an ever-growing cosmic foam? According to the theory of eternal inflation, the inflation that began our cosmos never truly ended. While our universe cooled and formed galaxies, other regions kept inflating, budding off their own universes, like flowers blooming in a cosmic garden without boundaries. Each universe might have its own physical laws, its own constants, its own kind of matter. Some might be stillborn, collapsing in moments. Others might expand forever. And among this infinite bloom of worlds, ours just happens to be one where life and consciousness can exist to wonder about it. The cosmic mirror. There is yet another, more poetic vision. That time flows not only forward but also backward from the Big Bang. Some physicists propose that on the other side of that singularity, there might be a mirror universe where time runs in reverse. In that world, what we call the past might be their future. Every atom, every law of physics, perfectly symmetrical, a reflection of ours across the boundary of creation. To them, we might be the reflection. In this way, the Big Bang could be less like a birth and more like a balance. Two universes emerging back to back, expanding in opposite temporal directions, maintaining the grand symmetry of existence. When we step back and look at these theories, a pattern emerges. No matter how we describe it, cycles, quantum fluctuations, or eternal inflation, the universe refuses to be finite. Even when we try to find an ultimate beginning, it slips away, folding back into something deeper, something timeless. Maybe the Big Bang was not the beginning at all, but a continuation, the way a wave continues the motion of the sea that made it. Perhaps existence never truly starts. It simply transforms. So, if the cosmos has no beginning, what does that say about endings? If every collapse becomes a birth, every silence another overture, then is the universe not just alive, but immortal? What if our universe is not alone? What if the night sky we gaze upon, vast as it seems, is just one canvas among countless others, invisible, untouchable, but as real as our own? For centuries, we believed the cosmos was everything there is. The stars, the galaxies, the void between them, all contained in one grand, infinite expanse. But as science ventured deeper into the laws of physics, something unexpected began to whisper from the equations. Perhaps reality itself is plural. This is the idea of the multiverse, a concept both breathtaking and bewildering. It suggests that our universe may be just one among an endless sea of others, each with its own story, its own laws, its own rhythm of time. The quantum multiverse. At the smallest scales of reality, the quantum world behaves in ways that defy ordinary logic. A particle can exist in multiple places at once. A cat can be both alive and not alive until observed. Physicist Hugh Everett once proposed that every quantum possibility doesn't simply vanish when we observe one outcome. It continues elsewhere. In this view, the universe branches at every decision, every measurement, every quantum flicker. Each version of reality, every what if, becomes real in a different world. In one, you are reading these words. In another, perhaps you never found them. In yet another, the stars formed differently, the earth never cooled, and life itself never began. It is an unsettling yet beautiful thought that existence is not a single thread, but a tapestry woven from infinite strands. The cosmic multiverse. Cosmology, too, hints at a multiplicity of universes. In the eternal inflation model, as our universe expanded and cooled, other regions of the cosmic field continued inflating, each forming its own bubble universe. These bubbles are completely isolated, each with its own version of space and time. They may have different values for the laws of physics, different gravitational pulls, different kinds of light, perhaps even different numbers of dimensions. Some universes could be cold and sterile. Others might blaze with energies we cannot imagine. And among these infinite variations, ours just happens to be one where conditions align perfectly for stars, atoms, and life. Not because we were chosen, but because only in such a universe could beings like us ever exist to notice. This is the anthropic principle, the quiet reasoning of existence itself. The universe seems finely tuned for life not because it was designed that way, but because in the vast ocean of universes, We exist in one of the rare islands where life can flourish. The mathematical universe. Then comes a more radical vision, that mathematics is not just a tool to describe the universe, it is the universe. Every possible mathematical structure, every equation that can exist, corresponds to a real physical reality. Our cosmos, with its particular laws and constants, is just one expression among infinite mathematical possibilities. In this view, existence simply means consistency. If a universe can exist within the language of mathematics, then it does somewhere in the infinite expanse of being. Every world that can be imagined by the equations already is. The spiritual mirror. Interestingly, these modern theories echo some of the oldest philosophical traditions. In Hindu cosmology, there are infinite universes, each emerging and dissolving like bubbles in the cosmic ocean. In Buddhist thought, every realm of consciousness gives rise to its own world, countless universes, overlapping yet unseen. Even Plato spoke of the world of forms, realities beyond our perception, shaping the one we know. Perhaps what science now calls the multiverse is what ancient mystics once called the many mansions of creation, a realization that existence itself might be too vast, too fertile to ever be singular. Still, the question persists. If there are countless universes, what connects them? Are they truly separate, or do they all emerge from one deeper source, a cosmic field of pure potential? Could it be that behind every bubble, every dimension, every dream of existence, there is one silent origin, an eternal something that births all possible realities? If the multiverse is the grand symphony of creation, what then is the composer? For so long, we believed the universe existed out there, vast, indifferent, complete in itself. We, the observers, were mere witnesses, tiny flashes of awareness adrift in an ocean of stars. But the deeper science peers into the nature of reality, the stranger the picture becomes. It seems that observation consciousness itself may not be a passive act at all. It might be the very thread that binds existence together. When the ancient sages of India whispered, Tat Tvam Asi, thou art that, they were hinting at something modern physics is only beginning to glimpse, that the observer and the observed may be one and the same. The quantum enigma. In the microscopic world of quantum physics, everything behaves as a wave of possibilities until it is measured. An electron can spin in all directions, pass through multiple paths, even exist in several places at once, until an observation is made. In that moment, the wave collapses, and a single outcome emerges. But what causes that collapse? What decides which version of reality becomes the reality? Some say it's the act of observation itself, consciousness interacting with possibility. Without an observer, there are only probabilities. With awareness, there is actuality. In this view, the universe does not simply exist. It becomes each time it is seen. It's an idea that bends the mind. Could it be that we are not separate from the universe, but participants in its unfolding? That the cosmos awakens through our awareness of it? The participatory universe. The physicist John Archibald Wheeler, who coined the term black hole, once proposed something astonishing. He called it the participatory anthropic principle. He suggested that the universe requires observers, that consciousness is not an accidental byproduct of matter, but an essential part of the cosmic equation. In his words, we are tiny patches of the universe looking at itself and building itself. This idea reshapes everything. The Big Bang was not just the birth of matter, it may also have been the birth of potential awareness. Atoms evolved into stars. Stars forged elements. Elements formed life. And life, through consciousness, gave the universe a way to perceive itself. You, sitting here, thinking, wondering, are the universe reflecting upon its own origin? Cosmic consciousness. Across cultures and centuries, mystics have spoken of this same realization, that consciousness is not limited to the brain, nor confined within the human form. It is the ground of being, the field in which all things arise. Just as the ocean gives shape to waves, consciousness gives rise to experience. When the universe was born, perhaps consciousness was not created within it. Perhaps consciousness was the womb from which it emerged. Quantum physicist Erwin Schrödinger once wrote, "The total number of minds in the universe is one." In fact, consciousness is a singularity phasing as multiplicity. If he was right, then all beings, human, animal, cosmic, are expressions of a single awareness exploring itself through infinite forms. Imagine, then, the first photon released after the Big Bang, that spark of light still echoing as cosmic background radiation, might not be separate from the awareness reading these words now. Perhaps both are moments of the same consciousness, stretched across time and form, rediscovering itself through the beauty of creation. Science meets spirit. Modern physics speaks of quantum fields, invisible energies that fill all of space, unifying the forces of nature. Ancient philosophy speaks of a cosmic mind, a universal spirit that pervades all being. Could they be describing the same thing, from different perspectives? When we speak of energy, vibration, or probability, we may be describing the patterns consciousness uses to express itself. This is not mysticism alone. Neuroscience and physics increasingly suggest that consciousness might be a fundamental property of the universe. Not something the brain creates, but something the brain receives, like a radio tuned to the frequency of existence. If so, then awareness did not appear when humans evolved. It was always there, waiting for form. Every thought, every dream, every heartbeat may be the cosmos experiencing itself through you. Perhaps this is what gives meaning to creation itself. The Big Bang was not just the birth of matter and time, but the birth of perspective, the awakening of an infinite consciousness yearning to see, to feel, to know itself. And if that is true, then we must ask, does the universe need us, observers, to continue becoming? Is consciousness the final piece of the cosmic equation? Or was it the first? What does it mean to say that everything came from nothing? We repeat the phrase often, the universe was born from nothing. Yet the words themselves defy comprehension. How can nothing give rise to something? How can the absence of all being awaken into galaxies, stars, and life? To grasp this mystery, we must first ask, what is nothing? First, the answer seems simple. Nothing is the absence of all things, no matter, no energy, no light, no time. But in the language of physics, nothingness is not truly empty. Even the vacuum of space, stripped of every atom, still seethes with energy. Tiny fluctuations blinking in and out of existence. Particles appear and vanish in less than a heartbeat, as if reality cannot resist the urge to create. Physicists call this the quantum vacuum, and it is perhaps the most profound paradox of all. Emptiness that isn't empty. Fertile void. A stillness pregnant with possibility. It seems that the deeper we peer into nothing, the more we find. Space, far from being a hollow stage, is a living fabric capable of bending, vibrating, and giving birth. Could it be that the Big Bang itself was a ripple in this quantum sea? A fluctuation that, once begun, could not stop expanding? But let us step beyond physics for a moment into philosophy. If nothing is truly the absence of all, then even the laws of nature, even mathematics itself, cannot exist there. No equations, no probabilities, no potential. Not even the possibility of change. And yet, here we are, proof that something emerged. Perhaps, then, nothingness is not the opposite of being, but its hidden mirror. Two sides of one eternal principle. Presence and absence, fullness and void, light and shadow. The Taoists of ancient China called it the Wu-Ji, the unmanifest source from which the Tai-Ji, or cosmic duality, arises. The Greeks called it the apeiron, the boundless. Mystics across traditions have described it not as emptiness, but as potential unexpressed. A silence so vast it contains every possible note. In this sense, nothing might not be the lack of reality, but the canvas upon which reality paints itself. Just as silence gives meaning to music, or darkness allows stars to shine, the void gives form to creation. Without the backdrop of nothingness, being itself would have no contrast, no boundary, no name. Modern cosmology hints at this idea through symmetry. The total energy of the universe, according to some theories, might be exactly zero. Positive energy in matter balanced perfectly by the negative energy of gravity. In other words, perhaps the universe didn't cost anything to create, the grandest miracle of all, achieved with no net energy at all. A cosmic equation that reads simply, 0 equals plus everything plus, minus everything. If so, the universe may be the most elegant expression of balance ever conceived, a perfect symmetry born from the nothing that was not truly nothing. Still, the mind resists. We imagine a prelude, a void waiting to burst into being, but waiting itself implies time, and time did not yet exist. We imagine space expanding into emptiness, but emptiness has no direction, no edge. Every time we try to imagine before, we are pulled back into within. Maybe the question itself, what existed before the beginning, is the wrong question. Maybe the truth is that the beginning is everywhere, always happening, eternally present. That nothing and everything are not separated by distance or time, but are interwoven expressions of one timeless source. Perhaps the greatest secret is this: the nothing that preceded creation is not a void to be feared, but a mystery to be understood. It is the infinite silence from which each moment still emerges. And every second, even now, the universe continues to rise out of that same silence. Not once, but forever. So when you close your eyes and feel the stillness between thoughts, the breath between breaths, the gap between heartbeats, you are touching the same nothing that once gave birth to the stars. And so the question echoes through both science and soul alike. If nothing gave rise to everything, then was it ever truly nothing at all? What existed before the beginning? It is the question that haunts every mind that has ever looked up at the stars. It echoes through science, philosophy, and faith alike, an unending whisper from the edge of understanding. We have followed the trail of light back through time. From galaxies to stars, from atoms to energy, from energy to pure potential. We have seen the universe arise from a silence so complete that even time had not yet begun. We have watched the laws of physics awaken, shaping chaos into symmetry, simplicity into galaxies of infinite beauty. And we have learned that this cosmos, our home, is not a frozen accident, but an unfolding story, written in the language of wonder. But every story implies an author. Every law suggests a source. And as we reach the horizon of knowledge, we find that science itself begins to speak in the language of mystery. Perhaps there was no before, because before requires time, and time was one of creation's children. Perhaps asking what preceded the Big Bang is like asking what lies north of the North Pole. The answer is not hidden, it is meaningless, because the question itself dissolves beyond the boundaries of time. And yet, something deeper persists. We sense that behind the fabric of space and time, there is a stillness, something that does not begin or end, something that does not change yet allows all change to occur. The physicist David Bohm called it the implicate order, an underlying wholeness from which the visible universe unfolds. Mystics have called it consciousness, the eternal now, the ground of being. Perhaps these are different names for the same silence, the same creative void that holds all possible worlds within it. Maybe the Big Bang was not an explosion, but a revelation, the first flash of awareness within infinite stillness. A single thought becoming form, a point of pure consciousness realizing, I am. In that instant, light was born. Energy became matter. Matter became life. Life began to look back, and the universe discovered itself. You, the observer, the dreamer, the one who wonders, are part of that same awakening. The atoms in your body were forged in ancient stars, but the awareness that gazes through your eyes may trace back even further, to that first breath before breath itself. What existed before the beginning? Perhaps the question is not about what, but who. Not an object, but a presence. Not a force, but a knowing. A consciousness dreaming itself into galaxies, into life, into you. And maybe there was never a beginning at all. Perhaps the Big Bang was simply the latest blossom in an eternal garden, the universe forever blooming from itself, endlessly reborn through the cycles of awareness and form. An infinite dance between being and becoming. So, as you gaze tonight into the night sky, into the light that has traveled billions of years just to reach you, know this: you are seeing not only the past, but the beginning. And in that beginning you are already there. Every particle, Every thought, every heartbeat is part of that same unfolding moment, the eternal now, in which the universe continues to create itself. The beginning never ended. It is still happening, in you, in me, in every star that burns and every silence that listens. So let us end where we began, with the question that will never stop shining. If the universe arose from nothing, and time itself from timelessness, then what if there was never before or after, only the infinite presence of existence itself?